Good day, and welcome to another episode of Devo's Straight Dope. So for today's topic, many American drivers, myself included, often worry about the speed cameras and the red light cameras that are popping up all over. Now, you can argue that these cameras are to keep us safe from reckless drivers. You can also argue that these cameras allow local politicians to line their pockets. But whether you like it or not, these cameras are here. Now, has there ever been a time where you're driving and out of nowhere you see a flash and you think, am I about to get a ticket in the mail? Well, if you follow these rules, you just might be safe. First of all, obey traffic laws. So think of traffic laws as something that as rules of etiquette on the road that are meant to keep you and others safe. For instance, like, maybe, like, you know how a friend would say, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Well, here's an example of what you shouldn't do. For instance, speeding, running red lights, running stop signs, traffic weaving, unless if you're in Chicago and it is pothole season, and so forth. So, if you've read those rules of the road and you know how to read traffic signs, rather, you should be safe. So, first of all, when you're driving, you're supposed to be you're supposed to have a panoramic view of what's in front of you and what's to the side of you. So you should be paying close attention, make sure your mirrors are properly adjusted, and so that means if you see a sign that says speed limit 25, slow down. If you're going over 25. Now, like maybe 1, 2, or 3 miles over the speed limit, it's not so horrible. But in fact, if it were a police officer who's fishing, they'll probably leave you alone. But if it's 6 to 10 miles over speed limit or more, even if that police officer pulls you over, if you're not going too quickly, if you're polite, you might get a warning. However, when it comes to a speed camera, there's no such thing as giving a driver a warning and understanding what a rough day they've had. In 3 to 4 weeks, if you're speeding and it says speed camera enforced, you can expect a ticket. Another thing, so again, look at the traffic signs and no speeding. Those traffic signs are there to warn you of what's going to be coming ahead, or that you're in a certain area where certain things are not tolerated. Second of all, and I shouldn't even have to say this, don't text and drive. And if you use a phone, use a hands-free device. Because distracted driving is the #1 reason why people, well, one of the top reasons why people miss stop signs, why they miss red lights, why they miss warnings of speed traps. If you're not paying attention and you blow a red light or go well over the speed limit because you're not because you're distracted with your little phone, then maybe you need a ticket. So that's the second rule. No distracted driving. In fact, if there's this one person that you talk to either in person or in person or on the phone that is always distracting you, that is the last person you should be talking to when you're driving, even with a hands-free device. And that brings me to the next one. If there is someone, if you've got a spouse who's in your car and they're angry with you, or if they've got a hair across their behinds, leave them at home. Because a persnickety person or a person who just won't shut up and is nagging you about everything will eventually lead to distracted driving. And then, because of them giving you a hard time and busting your chops, or because they like to gab, you're getting a ticket. So, leave annoying or nagging people at home. Don't pick them up. Don't talk to them until you are no longer driving. That's half funny, half truth. So here's another one. If you see the light is changing and you have not approached the intersection, stop. Don't, because the thing is, red lights or traffic lights, they actually have, so traffic lights have their own sense of timing. And usually you can tell by where you are and how big the street is. If it is a very wide street where where the speed limit is 40 and above, and there are maybe 2 lanes per side, then you might be able to make the light. But if you're, and especially if you're out in the country or in like a not so busy suburban area, however, if you're in a downtown area, or if you are on a metropolitan city street, that yellow light is going to be a lot faster than the one in the country or in the suburbs or an area like that. What I like to do is, and this only works in certain cities, but in Chicagoland areas, there is actually a countdown for the walk and don't walk signs. So what happens is, when the countdown for the don't walk sign is flashing, and it's then that will give you a sign as to how much time you safely have to cross the intersection. Because one thing that I like to remember is that when you get to 1 and then 0, usually within 2 seconds, the green light's gone and you've got a yellow light. So in some streets, it's not always true. It may be miscalibrated, but 9 times out of 10, if the don't walk sign stops flashing and is solid after a countdown, then you've got about maybe 2 seconds. 2 seconds before the yellow light comes on. So the thing is, if that driver ahead of you is slow, don't risk it. In fact, if you have not touched the intersection before the countdown reaches 5, just stay put. People behind you may be really annoyed, but if it's below 5, then who knows? There are some places where once it reaches 3, then it will change to a yellow light. So these are just some basic, this is something that's very basic. It's just knowing, it's being able to time when the light is going to change. I'll give you another example. If you are on a T street, you know, a street where it's 2 streets, but they don't completely intersect, but one street meets at the middle, so it forms a T. Then the street that's going, like if you are approaching that one street, then chances are you're gonna have less green. But if you are the larger street, you'll have more green. If you are at an intersection where there are 2 major streets, for instance, if you're in Chicago and you're at North Avenue and Cicero, these are 2 large, long streets, you'll have about an equal amount of green each side. And if you're in the 6 Corners area, where, for instance, 3 streets intersect, the smaller streets that you're trying to get onto or that you're on will have shorter green. So timing is everything, but it's not too hard to time. So let's summarize those steps. Obey traffic laws, leave nagging or annoying people at home, don't speed, watch the traffic signs at all times, no distracted driving with your cell phone or in general, and learn how to time. Don't take chances when the light changes to yellow. So if you follow these 6 suggestions, you probably won't get a red light or speed camera ticket. Let me know if these have helped you at all. I'm out.